Hello everyone. In this session, we'll be talking about the different kind of number functions that are present in Tableau. Tableau provides a variety of number functions that allows you to perform operations on the top of the numerical values in your data. Here are some of the most commonly used number functions in Tableau. To start with, we have the absolute function. Now, what this absolute function does is it returns the absolute value of a given number. So let's say I have two numbers. One is in the form of a positive number and the other one is the negative number. So I have two examples over here. First one is the positive 5, the next one is the negative 5. It would give me the value as 5 only. So it doesn't matter whether you provide the positive or negative number, it would give you only the absolute value of that particular number. The next one is the ceiling number. So ceiling number returns the least integer greater than or equal to the given number, which means it gives you the maximum of that value, whatever value you are providing. So for the example over here, the ceiling function, I have given the value as 4.157. And since we know 5 is greater than this value slowly tries to go towards 5 as it has crossed 4. So as it has crossed 4, it would give you the value as 5. On the other hand, if we talk about the negative number, if any negative number is passed from the ceiling option, it would give you the value as the highest number. That is, since same number, if it was passed with the help of a negative sign, it would give you the value as minus 4. Because over here, minus 4.157 is less than minus 4. That's why. Then we have the floor number. The floor number does the opposite of the ceiling number. It returns the minimum number. So for the example, I have this floor of 4.157. So since 4 is less than this number, give that value of this number. It will just remove the decimals. If we talk about the negative numbers, since minus 5 is less than minus 4.157, it would give me the value as minus 5. So the next one is the div function. So div functions returns you the quotient of a particular number. When you divide two numbers and whatever quotient is coming, it would give you that value. So for example, let's say I want to divide 9 comma 5. I am taking two integers 9 and 5. Since we know that if we divide these two numbers, the quotient would be coming as 1 and the remaining would be the 4. The remainder would be the 4. So it would give me the quotient. The next one is the exponential part. Exponential is the basically if you want to raise any number and you want to give any power to that number, it would give you the result. For example, if you have any number, let's say you want to find what is e to the power 5, and that is an exponential function. So it would give you the value as 13.59. It would just do the exponential of that number. Then we have the natural log. So for natural log, we use the function ln. If you pass any number inside of this natural log function, it would give you the natural log of that number. So the natural log of 5 is 1.609. That's why it is returning the value as 1.609. Then we have the log. If any base is not given to that log, it would take the base as 10 directly. So if you need to provide any kind of base, it is also possible. The syntax for that is log, and then you have to provide the number, and then you have to provide the base. For example, I want to find what is the log of 5 and the base should be 10. So I can do it with the help of this expression log, and in bracket I can write 5 comma 10 and it would give me the value 0.6989. If you want to give any other base, it is also possible. Then we have the max function. This max function is used to find out the maximum amount of two numbers. Let's say I want to find out what is the maximum out of, say, if I have two values and I want to compare the maximum amount of profit they are giving. I can pass the two integers and they would give me the maximum amount of. Here for the example, I have written the maximum out of 5 or 10 and it is giving me the value as 10 since 10 is greater than 5. Now moving towards the minimum function. The minimum function returns the minimum out of two numbers. So same is the example. Here I have taken the minimum out of 5 and 10. Since the minimum out of these two values is 5, it will give me the result as 5. Then I have the power functions. So if you want to give power to any number, you can use this kind of function. In this function, the syntax is power followed by the number that you want to give power to and the power that you want to specify. For the example, I have written power and in bracket I have provided 6 comma 2. That means I want to find out what is the square of 6. Here the answer is coming as 36. The next one is the round function. So round function is used to round off any number, and you can also give at how many decimal points you want to round off that particular number. So for the example over here, I have taken the value as 3.149745 and I want to round it off up to 2 decimal places. So it would round the number and it would give me the result as 3.15. The next in this list is the sign function. The sign function is used to find out what is the sign of a particular number. So let's say if you have the negative number, to find out the sign, or the positive number and you want to find out the sign, it would give you three values. If the number is negative, it would return -1. If the number is 0, it would give the value as 0 output. And if the number is positive, it would give you 1 as the output. Last second one is the square root function. Square root function is basically used to find out the square root of a number. Let's say I want to find out what is the square root of any quantity. I can provide the quantity inside the square root function and it would give me the square root. If I want to find out the square of any number, I can do the help of square function. Square function allows you to pass any number and the output it will give you the square of that number. So this was all for the theoretical part. Now let's go to the Tableau screen and see how we can use these numbers. So I'm in my Tableau screen and here we'll be creating some different calculated fields and see how these numeric functions would be used. So let's go to the create calculated field option. The first one I will be taking as the absolute function. To use that, I can click on this and I can choose the number functions. And you can see I have this absolute function over here. So let's try to find out what is the absolute value of profit. So let me write profit over here and it is giving me the suggestion that do you want to find out the absolute value of profit? I said yes. For the name, I can give it the name as profit test and I can click on apply and OK. Since it is a numeric value, it's giving me the value in the measures. So let's say I want to find out the different profit associated with each order ID. For that, I can double click on the order ID and then I can double click on the profit. It is giving me the profit for each of the order ID that is present. So some of the profits are even in negative. You can see these numbers are negative over here while I'm getting few positives also. So now whatever calculated field I have created, I can double click on it and you can see whatever number were negative right now have been converted into positive. This is done just because the absolute converts any number the absolute form. Whether it is positive or negative doesn't matter. It would give you the value only as the absolute number that is present in that. Let's clean the screen and try to create any different kind of calculated field. This time I'll try to make square root function. For that, I go in the calculated fields again. I choose number and here I'll choose the square root function. After choosing this square root function, let's say I want to find out square root of any quantity. So whatever quantities of the items have been sold, I want to find out the square root of those numbers. You can see the calculation is valid. That means whatever syntax we have written is correct. Here I want to give the name as square root test. I click on apply and OK. And I want to see what is the order quantity and I want to find out the square root of it. So let's say I'll click on this quantity of orders and here the value is coming in the form of sum and it is also the continuous value. So let's say I'm trying to find out the quantity based on different order IDs. I'll try to convert it into the text table. So I'll go in the show me and convert it into the text table. So over here you can see these quantities are given in the form of summations and with each order ID, some different quantities are associated. Now, whatever square root we have written, I can go and put it over here. So the name I gave it for it was the square root test. So I can drag and drop it over here. Let it try to compute and it is a numerical value. That's why it is giving me the value in the form of continuous value. So let's try to convert it in the discrete value. So you can see whatever numbers are present over here, I'm getting some square root on the top of it. Now here, I want to find out the square root. To do that, what I do is I drag and drop this square root over here and let me wait it for it to calculate the values. Over here, you can see since it is a numeric value, it is giving me a different kind of visualization. To correct it, I have to go in this and I have to choose the discrete value. And then I can choose it to show me the attributes instead of the sum. If I choose the attributes, it would be showing me a different value. For example, the square root of 2 is 1.414. And here the different square root for different numbers are shown. Some of them would be shown in the form of asterisk. That means it is not able to calculate those values because we have kept the sum of quantity over here. So I have to change it in the form of the discrete values. Also, I have to change it to be the attributes instead of measures. And then it would try to calculate different values. For whatever values this asterisk is coming, that means it is not able to calculate because it was doing the summation for these order IDs. And since right now I have changed it to the attributes, it is showing the specific values. So if you want to see some summations of it, you can also do it. But for that, you have to create a different kind of visualization. Since I'm created the text table over here, you can look at few of the values. They are giving some correct answers. So let's see. The square root of 2 is 2.44 something. So it is giving me the correct answer. I know the square root of 2 is 1.41. So that is also correct. And for whatever values are not showing, I can create a different visual to see it. Over here, you can see the square root of 9 is also showing as 3. So this was for the square root function. Now let's clean the screen and let's try to find out the maximum of two number and the minimum of two. For that, I'll again go to the create calculated field. Over here, I'll choose the number option and I'll choose the minimum option. In the minimum option, it requires us to give two expressions. So for the first expression, I will write as 5. The next expression, I'll write as, now I'm not giving it any different value, such as, say, I want to find out what is the maximum of sales or profit. I'm not doing any parameters like that. So I can also do it. So let me try to rename it and I will give the name as minimum test. Let's to try to find out the minimum of these two values. I'll click on apply. Okay. You can drag and drop these values over here and you can see it is giving me the complete sum of whatever values in that column is coming. So let me convert it to the attribute and I can even keep the value as discrete even of continuous. But right now it is giving me the correct answer as 5. But even if you want to keep it as the discrete value, you can do that as well. So the answer is coming as 5. So this was based just on two values. If you want to do it based on what is the minimum of profit and sales in a single column, you can do that as well. So let's try to do that kind of work. I'll again go in create calculated field. This time I'll choose numbers and I'll choose the maximum part. Let's say in the first expression, I'm writing profit, comma, this time I'm writing sales. Here it is says that this calculation is valid and I'll give the name as maximum of profit and sales. Let's try to find out what is the maximum value. I'll clean the screen and over here, let's say I want to find out these values based on the subcategories. So based on the subcategory, I want to find out first the sale and the profit. So this is the profit in each of the subcategory and the sales in each of the subcategory. Now, which is a bigger number? Obviously, in some parts, the sales is the bigger number, and maybe it can happen that the profit is the bigger number in some of the cases where the profit margin is too high. So to check, what I'll do is I drag and drop this value. If you drag and drop this value, let's say I'll keep it as the text, you can see the maximum out of these two numbers are shown. So 7,49,237 is showing me. If you want to see it side by side, that kind of thing can also be done. Right now it is giving me as the measure. What I'll do is I try to convert it into different value. But I think the previous format was correct. It was easy to see. So you can drag and drop this value, or you can even double click on the top of it just to keep it side by side. That would give you a clear idea of which is the bigger value. So you can see over here the sales is the bigger value. That's why the sales value is showing. If at any point of time the profit becomes the bigger value, the profit value will be shown. So if you want to compare the two values and you're not sure what is the bigger value out of those two, you can use this kind of function maximum, and you can also use the minimum function same as it is. So if you want to find out the minimum out of these two values, you can use minimum. Along with that, you can keep two parameters such as profit, sales, or say profit, shipping cost, and then you can find out whether my profit is exceeding the shipping cost or not, or whether it is affecting it somehow. So this was all for the numeric functions. You can perform other numeric functions also, whichever are present in the list. The syntax is same, but the key is to understand what is the syntax demanding. If it demands you to give you any variable, or it just wants you to give a single expression, let's say some numbers only, or if the columns are supported. So you can perform these kind of operation on the top of it as well. So this was all for this session. We will be meeting in the next session where we will be talking about the date functions tab.